weekend racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last stunts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is The Magic Mike Show, episode 277. Mr. Summich. I was thinking we're getting a little closer to 300. It's exciting. And then you realize Blinkers Off is celebrating episode 500. We still have a long ways to go. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I don't know if I want to make it to 500. That's a lot of time we spend together. That's like 500 hours. If you figure that out in days, it's like, 20 days that we've spent together doing podcasts?
Plus in the old days, we actually used to get on here and prep for a little bit beforehand. This is a long time. But we used to do stuff in person, so then it's usually like an hour of bullshit. And then we'll do the show once we figure out how to go live on Twitter. And then, it's a bunch of time afterwards too. So, but hey, that's okay. It's okay. The point of being in a good relationship is you go to counseling a lot when you have problems. You have a counselor sometimes just jumps in the middle of your StreamYard session and tries to work things out or make things worse, depending on what mood he's feeling in today. But I'm feeling good because we're back at Belmont Park. Last weekend, you crushed it. So see if we can do it again this weekend.
Yeah, man. Belmont was fun last weekend, so we're going right back there. It looks like there might be some rain in the forecast, so this is definitely one of those podcasts where I'd say make sure to check back on Twitter on the Saturday of, because there could definitely be some changes. 3 of the 4 races we're covering are going to be on the turf course here, so I wouldn't be shocked if the last one comes off. I'd be pretty surprised if they take the Pennine Ridge off, but I would be shocked if they take the last race in the sequence off the turf.
Dude, I was thinking the same exact thing. The rain was coming in. It looks like right now it's coming in the morning, and then you get to later in the day. It should be okay. But I also handicapped this because we have the one time that we get 3 out of the 4 races are turf. There's a good chance 2 of them might come off the turf. It's kind of annoying, but at least we don't end with the New York State breds maiden claiming. We just have really bad claiming horses. So if that one comes off, you've got I think 3 main track only entries in there. So make sure this is one of those times when we say make sure you're following us on Twitter because when the changes come out, we're not going to do another podcast. We're just going to post it on Twitter what we're doing. So don't come at us saying that we didn't give out our updated tickets or that you're mad about that. So make sure you follow us on Twitter. I'm at Chris Code. He's at SumOf18, and that's the end of the show. That's usually how things go for me. I was already in the mindset of, and we're done. Didn't even talk about horses. But I've got a really great thing that was the best thing that I saw. It was literally about 10 minutes before we went live, 15 minutes before we went live. So I'm going to pull it up real quick because it's a visual thing, but I want to hear from you first.
You want to hear from me first?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Best thing I saw all day. This is actually kind of odd for me. I'm really excited that we get Canterbury and Churchill Downs tonight. So the best thing I saw is some night racing on Thursday. We had no racing all day. I think it was like Thistle Downs almost got me to bet on it because there were so few tracks going. And now we have some interesting ones. And so the contest tonight is Canterbury and Emerald Downs, and I forget what the third track is. But it's these tracks that you don't necessarily get as much love. And I'm excited to see them get some love here on a Thursday night where the big shows in town are going to be Churchill at night, Canterbury at night, and then Emerald Downs on the West Coast. So looking forward to having all 3 of those tracks just rolling into my life here on a fun little Thursday afternoon.
I'm not saying this to be glib. I don't actually know what happened. How did the Canterbury Park ticket go? We did the midweek ticket where it was going to be covering the Tuesday night action, and then I believe almost all the races, or the 2 races that were on turf, were taken off. Or at least I know that your all race at the start got taken off the turf and completely threw off your handicapping. So how did that end up going for you Tuesday night?
It went okay. We went 4 or 5, which was kind of frustrating because we missed the leg. We were too deep in. I think it was the 4 and the 5. But we talked about a top pick winner that went off at 6-1, and then the horse that we talked about as the other option, the last one, won the last race as the favorite. So we had a couple people that nabbed the double there at the end, which was kind of nice. And yeah, it was a good day at Canterbury Park. It was a bummer that they're off the turf. They're off the turf again tonight, which kind of sucks. It's one of their nights where they had quite a few turf races, and we got a pick 6 carryover there too. 10% takeout, $1 bet. Why not get involved? So yeah, it was close. We came close, but no cigar.
That's okay. Scary thing happened. You alerted it to me. Ruben Fuentes got knocked off the horse that he was riding in a race yesterday at Canterbury. Lots of it. It was kind of a domino effect where you had the horse that eventually crossed the wire first, came over on Ruben's brother Luis, who came over on a fading rail horse, who clipped heels, went down, and then Ruben's horse tripped over, and Ruben couldn't maintain his balance. Luckily, everybody, horse and human, is okay for that. But from that incident, it was kind of scary to watch. I texted him. I was like, shit, are you okay? And like immediately, he's like, yeah, I'm fine. So jockeys are tough, but Ruben told me that let's just say that the jockey class that he left in California isn't quite there at Canterbury in terms of, and I don't think he just meant talent. I think he meant what they're thinking up here when they're racing for incidents like that to happen. So
yeah,
good
I mean, there's no Flavian Pratt at Canterbury right now. We'll just put it out there.
His name's Ruben Fuentes. That's who it is. Okay, here's the best thing that I saw. It was a Chicago Cubs game against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Did you hear about this?
Oh, I saw it, yeah.
This is one of the most ridiculous. Okay, so I worked in minor league baseball for 3 years. And during those 3 years, I watched so much. It was like everything baseball. It was before I got into horse racing. So baseball was everything I paid attention to. So a lot of wacky shit, especially in the minor leagues. There's some crazy things that happen. You're not supposed to have this happen if you're a Major League Baseball team. So I don't know if it's going to show off very well. So Javi Baez hits a grounder to third. Right there. This is what I love. He hits the grounder to third. They think it's an easy throw to first for the final out of the inning. They got a runner on second. 2 outs.
You don't need to tag him.
All the first baseman needed to do when he caught the ball was step on the bag. Like, Javi Baez just turns around and starts running. The first baseman forgets, just put your damn foot down and he's out because he can't run back to home. It doesn't work like that. So then they go into this whole thing. Mind you, the runner on second, he's already rounding third at this point. First baseman not paid. Oh, shit, there it is. Oh, wait, he's safe. Oh, wait, Javi, run. There's nobody covering first base. The second baseman tries a really bad play. Doesn't work. Now Javi's going to go to second. So they now have just scored. They stole home, and Javi got to second because the first baseman and the second baseman are complete idiots on the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah, that was a wild miscue. And the key was, again, there's 2 outs, right? So all you had to do is step on the base. And Baez running all the way back to the plate, almost touching home plate, and then running all the way to first. And he actually, if you watch it, and the feed absolutely sucked there, but if you watch it, Baez gets so close to home plate and goes safe and does it for the umpire and standing there doing nothing and then runs to first base. It's like they had all the time in the world, couldn't make the play. And let's see, did the Cubs win or lose?
They won, and they swept the Pirates for the series.
There we go, 5-3. Way to go, Cubbies. So, yeah, they definitely stole a run there. So, interesting play, one of those that you don't see very often, just an absolute boneheaded play by the first baseman.
I'm telling you, you see some crazy stuff in baseball. That one took the cake, and I was like, whatever it was going to be before, I was like, that's the best thing I saw, because I watched it 3 times, and just every time I'm like, what happened?
What are you doing?
How much money are you guys getting paid to do that?
Whoops.
Almost like critiquing jockeys. All right, we're going back to Belmont Park for Saturday's late pick 4 sequence. 3 of them, I hope, stay on turf. Let's get into it, Mike. Riders up. All right, Mike, kicking things off for the Saturday late pick 4 sequence at Belmont Park on Saturday, May 29th. Race 7 on the card, field of 10 maiden fillies, plus 3 also eligibles, plus 3 main track only entries, going 6 furlongs on the inner turf. This is a nice maiden special weight. Favoritism is going to be on the number 9 here, Bitten by Kitten, 7-2 for Wesley Ward. Joel Rosario, the bell curve. He is my top pick. I went pretty deep in this race because I thought that this was about the hardest one for me to figure out who I thought was really going to stand out from a win perspective. What'd you do on top?
So I actually originally went 5 deep in this race and was just going to play a 50-cent ticket. And then I kind of changed it up here, and I decided to trust my opinion a little bit more and then play a 50-cent and a $2 ticket. The horse on top, and this is a horse I like quite a bit, the 4-horse 4-1 Cease and Desist. It's a $410,000 daughter of Into Mischief, Clarovich Stables. It's a Chad Brown horse, but this is one of those angles I really like. Look, the horse got bet in its debut. The race was taken off the turf, reined onto the main track, going 5.5 furlongs instead of being on the turf. So Brown wanted this horse to be on the turf, decided to give it the race. Horse doesn't do very much, right? But comes back now in the spot where we're running a turf sprint. The horse looks to be working out pretty well. I like the fact that we're tuning this horse up to be able to start kind of a nice 3-year-old campaign here and be able to go into some of those Saratoga Stakes races on the turf. I think Cease and Desist is an awfully good horse here for Klarovich. I like the fact that we're 27% off this type of layoff. We're 25% second time maiden starts, 27% first time Lasix. I'm going to lean on Chad Brown here, especially on the turf course. I'm going to take him again on the dirt in a second. I'm sure we'll have a nice little fight about that one. But to me, Cease and Desist was a considered single and my top pick in this spot.
That was my second choice. I think a reason I ended up going 5 deep here is because I had issues with just about every horse that I liked. And here, we've talked about before, Chad Brown's best game on turf isn't sprinting. He is, 16%. If most trainers 16% at anything, they're like, hell yeah, sign me up. When you're Chad Brown, that's, you're 24, 25% overall. It's a cut below. But I'm with you. The fact that he wanted to get this horse sprinting, and now she's going to be first time Lasix, first time as a 3-year-old. Clearly, there's potential here. Castellano's going to stay aboard. Not worried about the fact that Irad isn't on because Castellano rode her in her debut. You did have a next out winner that finished second in that race too. So I'm going to use her. The 9 ended up being my top pick here, and I believe you used as well. Bitten by Kitten. Just don't get bitten by the bell curve in this spot. Wesley Ward is 26% maiden second starts, 25% with turf sprints. I like that this horse is cutting back from a mile and 16th at Keeneland, but also was doing well on a good turf course. And we talked about the rain at the start of the show. I think that there's going to be some give in the ground if this race stays on the turf. I like that this horse showed the ability to handle it, showed speed going 2 turns. Velasquez saw fit to ride, and she ran well. Gets third there, missed second by a neck. She just started fading a bit. This is going to be a very sharp cut back in distance, but I'm not looking for her to be on the lead here. I think that she's going to be more in the bell curve's wheelhouse, which is to sit back, stalk, kind of sit outside, and pounce when the timing's right. You did use the 9, correct?
Yeah, I did. This is a homebred for the Ramseys, and they've been keeping their best horses. And the fact that they sent this horse to Wesley Ward and John Velasquez picked up that mount at Keeneland, Velasquez and Ward have been deadly. Velasquez has been getting all of Ward's best horses. This is a sign where I'm saying, okay, we had Velasquez up the first time. We're getting Rosario this time. I think the horse is going to be ready to roll. So I do think Bitten by Kitten is another logical horse here. So the 4 and the 9 made both were my only 2 horses I used on the $2 ticket. On the 50-cent ticket, I did add the 5 horse Know How as well. This is a second off the layoff horse for Mark Casse. No Nay Never is one of those turf sprinting sires I really like. I like the fact that this horse showed some speed on the Gulfstream turf course, going 7.5 furlongs. We pick up Irad today, which I think is obviously a step forward, even though Gonzalez has been wonderful down at Gulfstream Park. And Casse is able to, he steps horses up off that second off the layoff. That's kind of what I'm looking for here, is just a nice step forward. I think we got tactical speed, but we'll be able to come from a little bit off the pace. So for me, the 4, the 5, and the 9 are going to hopefully get me through this thing and start off a nice little run here at Belmont.
Yeah, I use the 5 as well, so we have agreement there. I love Gary Barber horses. If Gary Barber owns a horse, it's usually, I'm going to give it a second look, even if I don't like it. I had a nice 68 buyer, and he's going to be cutting back. Like you said, No Nay Never. I'm with you that especially when we get to Royal Ascot, No Nay Never horses sprinting, especially the 2-year-olds. Oh man, they're money. Cassie's a little slow to get started at Belmont, and it's weird to me that he and Irad 21 times together, they've only won once. That I guess if there was a knock that I had, it's that, but they usually ride against each other all the time, not with each other, so not too worried about that spot. The other 2 horses I used, I'm going to use the 3 Evoking. This is a first-time starter for Jonathan Thomas, who's 20% with a nice ROI. First-time starters, 21% first-time turf, 21% turf sprints. His really nice works here. You see the 35-2 from the gate back on May 12th, and then 47-3 was the last work. Can you guess what my one major issue is with this horse? Again, Luis Saez is riding too, another nice angle. Can you guess what the problem is?
I know what the problem is. It's the reason I didn't use the horse. This was originally my 2nd pick in the race and dropped to my 5th pick because it's sired by Union Rags, who's 3% on turf. And that is a huge problem for me. I've had struggles with Union Rags horses in general. And Union Rags on the turf is just not good. And you've seen Pletcher struggle with it, Brown struggle with it. And I would completely use this 3 horse if it weren't for Union Rags.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. But I ended up making it work budget-wise to fit her in. Also used the 6 Blue Times as a first-time starter for Danny Gargan, who is not great with that. He's only 1 for his last 20 first-time starters, 0 for his last 16 first time on turf, and is 1 for 13 in turf sprints. Those are the knocks. However, not this time. This sire is 23% with first-timers and 21% in turf sprints. We're getting Lasix here for the debut. Kendrick Carmouche is going to be aboard, so I'm expecting this horse to be hustled. This horse has a lot of works on the page. Should be really fit. Carmouche and Gargan have a 23% win rate together. So I think this horse is going to have the ability there. It's just, is Danny Gargan really a turf sprint trainer? Is he really a turf trainer? I'm gonna take a chance here on this horse again because I could afford it, and I think that Kendricks are gonna really hustle this horse out. And I'm not sure with so many first-time starters in here, Mike, who's gonna take the lead. I can bet that the 6 is at least gonna be pushed to it if she breaks cleanly.
Yeah, the 6 was the other horse I considered, and it's the Gargan 5% thing that killed me. It's just that first time out. This is a horse I'm gonna probably stable up if it runs pretty well, and look at playing back the second time out. Not this time. You mentioned Freshman Sire, who's been absolutely killing it. I mean, just wonderful numbers with his first time starters so far. So it's one of those horses that second season Sire. So it's one of those horses that I'm consistently looking for. Constitution, not this time, really the two that stood out to me last year in that class. So you got to kind of keep an eye on this horse. But the fact that Gargan is so poor with this, and the fact that we've got some horses that I think look like real runners in here, makes it really hard for me to lean on a horse when you got that 5% first time starter number.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. If this was a claiming race, I think I'd be a little more inclined to use it as well. Real quick before we move on, if there's an also eligible that draws in, and I'm going to use it's the 11, who actually at 5-2 would be the favorite here. It sucks that this horse is. It's actually kind of nice because I don't have to worry about betting her until there's scratches, but has that really sharp 76 buyer for almost winning at this exact condition at the same course here on May 1st with my new good friend Trevor McCarthy in the saddle. Had a 76 buyer for that, so very clearly would be heavily bet here. And Clement is very strong with turf horses and turf sprints, and maybe Rosario stays aboard here instead of Bitten by Kitten. It'd be interesting to see if he goes from the old morning line favorite to the new one. Did you consider this horse at all if she draws in?
I think that the 11, 12, and 13 are all playable if they draw in. So I think it's going to be interesting to see if we do have any of these also eligibles that come in here. The 11, quick conversation, like you were mentioning, that 76 buyer. The 12 horse, Lascano's up for Linda Rice. The horse runs a 71 first time out, was 7 wide there. Is coming back, second start, every right to improve. And the 13 before you is a Mott horse cutting back who showed a bunch of speed and just absolutely quit. The race looks horrible on paper. But the fact that we're now turf sprinting makes you think that this horse, that Mott believes the horse does want the turf and that the sprinting should be right. So I kind of feel like you could use the 11, the 12, or the 13 in this spot if they draw in.
Yeah, I thought that way too. I'm glad we at least saw that, and I really hope that they don't draw in because it's going to make this a really expensive ticket for me. Let's move on to the second leg here. Race 8 on the card. You got a field of 10 males, 4 and up, going a mile and a 16th, which at Belmont Park is 1 turn on the dirt. These are horses who have never won $13,000 twice other than, or which have never won 3 races, or optional claiming price of $80,000. Favoritism is on the number 9, Chad Brown horse, Mike, you alluded to earlier. Mystic Knight, 3-1. I am playing against this horse, and I know you love it. Take it away.
Well, let's not go with love. There's a lot of horses that are kind of paper tigers in this race. We'll put it that way.
That's fair.
The numbers look really good for them, but then you go and watch the races, and they're kind of slow. Like you're just like, oh, that horse doesn't really want to win. That doesn't really want to win. Like, and you go through it, and then you watch the replays of the 9 Mystic Knight, and you're like, that's a racehorse. And that's what you saw in those 2 Aqueduct starts. And yeah, I agree with you. You know, his best string usually isn't at Aqueduct, but this year his horses that were winning were at Aqueduct and were at Tampa. Right. And so I'm going to give a little more credo to those horses this specific time, even though this was on the dirt. And I'm going to see what they can do taking a step forward. This is a $500,000 son of Into Mischief, who they decided to geld in 2020 as a 3-year-old. Right. This is definitely a horse that you wanted to breed, and they decided not to. Owned by Peter Brandt and 3 Chimneys. I mean, this is just one of those horses where it feels like they want this to be a stakes horse. And that is what they're actually prepping this horse for. They're trying to get this win to move into graded stakes company. That 99 buyer towers over this field. That was a second start as a 4-year-old, just a 4th start in his career. One of the few horses in this field that could logically take a step forward. I mean, and then the fact that you look at what he did last race, running into a 114, opening 6 furlongs and blowing the doors out of that field without a whip while being 3 wide and 2 wide on the turns. Just a really impressive run. Yeah, it didn't beat that much, but looked a lot better than anyone else had in their last start in this field.
That's true, and pops that really big 99 buyer, which is partially why you're going to get such a short price on the horse. I felt this was a vulnerable favorite. That's my big reason for playing against this horse. You touched on it. I've not put much stock in the Aqueduct horses, but guess what? Most of these horses were at Aqueduct over the winter, and for a good reason. They're not that good. Every horse, I wanted to sit here and say, well, Mystic Knight, rallied past a bunch of stumble bunnies. Look at how slow those fractions were. Look at literally any other horse in this race. You can pretty much say the same thing. They're all running slow fractions if they're winning. If you want to play this horse, I get it. If this horse beats me, it's going to be my own fault. To me personally, I felt this was one I could try and beat. My top pick here is going to be the 7, Doubly Blessed, for Mike Maker, Louis Size, 3 Diamonds Farm. A really nice winning combination together. 4-year-old son of Empire Maker. Huge jockey upgrade. I love Jamie Rodriguez when he's racing at Finger Lakes, but got this horse to finish second by a half length at the same exact condition back on April 30th. Now we're putting Luis Saez in the saddle. Here's my favorite part about this, Mike. This horse is 2 for 2 with really strong buyers, particularly a 97 on wet tracks or tracks. That was a good track. So if we get a little bit of moisture in the dirt, I know for a fact that because this is a Son of Empire Maker out of Bernardini mare, is bred to love the wet ground and has shown that he loves the wet ground. So was my top pick in here. I believe you did use on your 50 cent, right?
Yeah, this was actually my second choice. So I'm not going to argue with this one. I like the races at a mile. I think that the stretching out here to a mile and 16 shouldn't be too much of an issue. I know we did do that last time, but to me, I don't think that you're going to have any problem with the distance. And look, I'm not as in love with those good and muddy races that you are. I mean, one of those came at a $16,000 non-winners 2 claimer, which is one of my knocks on this horse is that he was such a low level before those last 3 races. But he ran really well 3 back. So I think you got to give the horse credit. And again, this is a 4-year-old who has every right to continue to improve. It's not like this is a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old who took a big step forward, right? You can also make an argument, and this is kind of what drew me to the horse. Just scratch out all the turf races. And if you do that, all of a sudden you've got an 82 buyer running at the $16,000 claiming level, jumps up to a 93 at an allowance, a $50,000 allowance, jumps up to a 97 and an $82,000 non-winners allowance 1, goes into a $75,000 stakes, runs in an 80K stakes. All of those races are solid. So for me, I think that is really where the argument is. You just draw a line through all the turf races, and then you get to this horse pretty easily on dirt.
So you have 2 more horses that you're using. I'm sorry, you have 1 more that you're using, and I have 2 more that I'm using. They're posts 1 through 3. So I'll let you go ahead and talk about your third one here, the number 3, Superfecto.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about Constitution, and I talked about how a lot of these horses, you kind of know what they are. Superfecto is another one of those horses who's just lightly raced. Only going to be the 7th horse in this race in this horse's career. Last time we saw this horse was back in March, the Grade 3 Ghost Zapper ran behind I Have a Jedi in Last Judgment. Last Judgment came back to win next time. I Have a Jedi. I mean, we've been all over that horse for a while here. I think that's actually a pretty good race. Now you get the first effort here, really in that second campaign as a 4-year-old. You should expect some improvement off those buyers. Obviously needs to take a jump forward, but I like the fact that we had a bullet work 2 back over this Belmont track. The work last time out wasn't bad. And, you get Velasquez up for Ralph Nix. I think this horse is ready to fire, and the distance should be, again, mile and 16 should hit this horse right between the eyes, has tactical speed. I think could either be on the lead or very close to it, and either way is very dangerous in this spot.
Yeah, this is the horse that if I lose anybody of my 3, this is the horse that's going to come in there. I also like the fact that the 2 wins this horse were going a mile 16th at Gulfstream Park against some pretty decent horses there. Faced Dr. Post to on his debut, and then you look at everybody else that he's been facing. Not a bad company here, and I'm with you. I think this horse has every reason to take a step forward. The way I looked at it, I think that the next race, the second race back, is when this horse is going to pop. But he did come back from about a 2.5-month break there to win to start off 2021. So, you do have room here for the horse to improve, but he already has a nice base there. So don't hate the usage. But you hate the usage that I have. The 1 Extraordinary Jerry and the 2 Girolamos Attack. I will let you attack either of those first.
Well, I mean, let's start with Extraordinary Jerry. Okay? I mean, your argument's going to be Rob Atras, right?
There's more than that. I also will say, if you look at his last 4 races, the first 2 dirt ones, he won with 97, 96 buyers, beat Allowance Company at Saratoga, which is pretty nice, won a state restricted stakes down at Gulfstream Park by 10 1/4 lengths. The Blame Stakes in over his head, he faced Owendale. And then the last race on the turf was against Ivar. And then Ivar used that to go to Keeneland and win the Shadwell Turf Mile. I remember that one. We haven't seen this horse in a long time. First time with Atras. He's a former Diodoro assistant, so read into that what you will, and Kendrick Carmouche on him. Those are my reasons for using him.
Yeah, he's run 2 races in the last year. All the races you're referencing that are good are when he was on the Todd Pletcher barn in 2019. That's my main knock. So this is a 4-year-old, late in the 4-year-old season, running those big-time races, and now we are early in the 6-year-old season. And I can't get to – he has to return to the form that he was 2 years ago to be able to compete with this field. Not win, compete with this field.
Right.
I don't see how you can end up with this. Like, I mean, I get it. Maybe you just see a miracle turnaround, right? But you got to go back to those Pletcher numbers to be competitive. And I just don't see how Extraordinary Jerry does that.
Well, that's a connections play, and so is the 2 Girolamos Attack. Going to need a career best effort off the bench here for Saffie Joseph Jr., but he's 3 for 8 so far at the meet, at least with the stats that I have. 46% when Irad Ortiz Jr. is in the saddle. That's the big thing for me. This horse, he'd been showing improvement before he took his break. You look at the Beyers. If you scratch off the sprint that he had at Churchill Downs, he goes 88, 80, 86, 81, 91. So a little inconsistent, sometimes little hills and valleys there with it. But I'm going to trust that Saffie Joseph has this horse ready, and I'm going to trust that Irad wouldn't jump aboard unless the horse was ready. But the fact that Ancient Warrior beat him at Churchill Downs, that one is hard for me to try and argue against.
Yeah, I mean, look, this one I would consider using. I mean, this was my 4th horse in. I didn't make the ticket because I only ended up going 3 deep. Again, this is a 4-year-old first off the layoff, middle of the 4-year-old campaign. Saffie does well first off the layoff. The level that he was running at, that 25,000 optional non-winners of 1, water's a lot deeper here. I mean, this is a pretty big step up in class. So I'm a little concerned that he just doesn't have the class to get it done. This is another horse, though, that may find itself on the lead. And I have a little bit of concerns about going a mile and 16th. The 1-turn mile and 16th is probably what this horse needs versus 2 turns. So I do think that's not a bad part there. Again, if you want to stretch my 50-cent ticket and add the 2, I wouldn't tell you you're crazy. You might as well just throw Magic's 1 Extraordinary Jerry out, though.
At 12-1, at least you're getting a decent price on him. I mean, it's probably the price you should get on him. But
I think it was Aaron who told me there's no value if they lose.
That sounds like something he would have told Ricky. Thanks for bringing that up. Let's move on to the feature race of the day at Belmont Park on Saturday, May 29th. Race 9 on the card. This is the Grade 2 $200,000 Pennine Ridge Stakes. You got a field of 9 3-year-old males going a mile and an eighth on the inner turf course. Favoritism is on the number 4, Hard Love for Jonathan Thomas, Javier Castellano in the saddle. Mike, if either one of us hits the sequence on Saturday, and I hope we both do, we're both going to get this race correct because we both use the same 2 horses. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if you follow the show, I have Sainthood on top here. This is just a no-brainer for me. I love this horse. I'm going to throw out the Kentucky Derby because it was the Kentucky Derby. We've talked about how this horse probably wanted turf the whole time and that won the Jeff Ruby Stakes, or came in second, should have won if he get cut off. Not still bitter about that or anything. This horse that's over a synthetic track. Synthetic translates over to turf well. Horse has the breeding for turf. Tomasha-ish horse with lemon drop kit on the bottom, should do very well. I think this is kind of the spot that this horse was looking for. Note the drop in weight too. I mean, this horse has carried 123 and 126 the last 2, cutting back to 118. Horse should be very much fit, and I expect to run the best race of its life. And the honest answer is that Jeff Ruby Stakes effort, without getting cut off, probably beats this field. So I don't even know if it needs to improve to win. So I like the 5 Sainthood at 4-1. I think we're going to get the right side of the bell curve on this one.
I'm with you. Also, Todd Pletcher said in the preview that Aaron Halterman wrote this, available@racenews.com right now. You can check that out. I put the quote in there. Pletcher said that turf was the plan, the long-term plan all along for Sainthood. They obviously, you get a little bit of Derby fever. It's Windstar and China Horse Club. They want to see what they have here. The Jeff Ruby Stakes was a good venture. I'm with you. Scratch off the Derby. It actually wasn't a terrible race for him, all things considered. It's just, at some point, if you know you're not going to win, what's the point of keep trying? Mishuish so far as a sire is only 4 for 54 on the turf, but this is still from his first crop, I believe. So small sample sizes here, and as the horse, as time develops, you'll see more turf mares get sent to Mishuish if he can get horses home like Sainthood on the turf. We both also use the 4 Hard Love. This was my top pick, the 9-5 favorite. Coming out of the Woodhaven Stakes, going a mile and 16th on the inner course at Aqueduct. Has a lot of good speed. Castellano knows how to pilot this horse. The price is going to be really short, but this horse really hasn't done anything wrong in his career. Got second in the Central Park, but otherwise 2 wins. A Kitten's Joy out of a Rock Hard 10 mare, so definitely the turf is going to be what this horse is clearly best at. Has never gone 1 turn on the turf either. So gotta love this horse. Did I miss anything for why you like it?
No, I think you're probably going to also be either the controlling speed or sitting the absolute catbird seat as well in a race that may not have that much pace in it. That was one of the other reasons why I thought the 4 was a must use, and really why I feel like we have this race circled with the 4 and the 5. I think we have the best horse who's close to the pace, and we have the best horse in the race who's coming from off the pace. And so that makes me feel pretty good. I considered using a couple others. I considered the 3 horse. You got an Irad Pletcher horse that was at $650,000 at auction that has consistently been getting better with each start. And you kind of see that progression there as you go through these races on the turf. The other one I considered was the 7 Public Sector, but I just didn't love that last race at Belmont. I mean, going back and watching it again, the horse didn't really have much of an excuse and just couldn't get it done and didn't kick in early enough. Second off the layoff, I mean, you could make a pretty strong case for Public Sector if you wanted to here, but I felt like this was the race where I could shorten up in my ticket to be able to use a couple others in other spots.
I completely agree with you. And the 3 Shaftesbury was my next horse in. I toyed back and forth with adding this horse. Ended up leaving him off. The Shaftesbury is actually a horse that before he debuted, it was on my list of horses to potentially draft. And then debuts in a 5 furlong turf sprint. It's like, well, that's probably not going to be a Derby horse for Todd Pletcher. Although I probably would have been a better draft pick than the one Pletcher we ended up with. We're both good against the 7 public sector here for Chad Brown. I'm with you. Irad is not going to be on this horse, and he's going to go to Todd Pletcher. He likes riding for Pletcher, but Brown and Klarovich, those are his main guys, and he's leaving for the Pletcher horse. Neither of us use Safe Conduct. Safe Conduct beat the pants off Public Sector last out. And I know it was Public Sector first time off layoff. Safe Conduct already had a start there, but I don't like Safe Conduct in this spot at all. And like you said, Mike, Public Sector didn't really have that get up and go that you see from Chad Brown's best turf horses. So a good one to fade here. As far as the Reds go, the 9 horse, I think if you were playing exotics, I think this is a great horse to try and put third. I think this horse is going to come flying up late, maybe get second. Kendrick Carmouche is usually a pusher horse, or pushes on horses, but I think this horse is going to come flying late. Tonalist is only 10% turf route sire, though, so it's the lowest for his stats. Did you consider the 9 at all?
I did not, no. And that race you mentioned between Safe Conduct and Public Sector, there's a track variant of just 4, so the track was very, very fast that day, and they went 48-4 in the first half mile. That was my main knock against Safe Conduct. I did not think that horse. The horse got a beautiful setup and was able to come home in sub-12s because of how fast the track was. That's why I would definitely, if I'm going to play someone, I'd play Public Sector over Safe Conduct, and because of how that track played last time out.
All right, Mike, let's move on to the 4th and final leg of the late Big 4 sequence here at Belmont Park. This is a real doozy of a race. We're going mile and a 16th on the outer turf course, so we're starting in the chute that's halfway through that first turn. 11 fillies and mares 3 and up, plus 4 MTOs. Non-winners of 2 lifetime in for a $30,000 tag, and you know it's a great one when there's a coupled entry that's the 7-2 favorite. That's the 1 Sengen Kontakit and the 1A Nikki Scissors here. If they stay both in, the 1 is my top choice here. I love the 1 in this spot, but if that horse scratches and I have him stuck with Nikki Scissors, I am running far, far away. I hate that horse in this spot. Where are you going on top?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. The 1 is 7-2. The 1A is 40-1, and you get it at 7-2 because it's coupled with the 1. Let's be honest here. I look, when I go to these races, one of the first things I look for is who is dropping, right out of the gate. Who's dropping in class, and who's been running at this level, and where did they break their maiden? And that really goes to 2 horses in this spot: the 6 Moana's Tail and the 7 Betcha by Golly. Look, the 6 has been running in state bred, but it was state bred optional, non-winners of 1 for $80,000 and $72,000 allowances, significantly better races than what we're seeing here, right? And so I look at those 2 races as the first 2 in the Mott Barn. He tried to shoot a little bit higher for this horse. Now we're dropping down to what's a little bit more reasonable level, the open 30,000, non-winners of 2, so significant drop in class. You're putting Junior Alvarado on, who is his go-to jockey in this spot. I think you could see this horse have a nice turnaround here. You see the 62 buyer or 64 buyer when the horse breaks its maiden, then goes right into a grade 3 race down at Churchill or down at Gulfstream Park. So they thought there was quite a bit of talent here. You've got those mid 60s buyers back in 2019. Now we're a 4-year-old. You'd assume there's more upside here. We're also third off a layoff, which is where you see Mott kick in a lot of times. He doesn't necessarily have him fresh to fire. It's that second or third race where you see the best effort. Because of all those reasons, I'm going to put the 6 Moana's Tail on top. And then let's talk about the horse right to the outside. I mean, this horse has been running in open company. Last 3 have all been $62,000 or $80,000 optional allowances. Ran a 63 career best buyer, first off the bench, first time on turf. What do we always talk about? Second time doing something is when you see a nice jump forward. So we're getting second off the layoff. We're getting second time on the turf. We're taking a nice drop. I think all systems are go, I bet you by golly. And you're getting 5-1 and 8-1 on these horses because the numbers aren't great, but they're not great against much worse or much better horses. Now they're facing much worse horses where they should run better efforts.
So I'm with you on the 6. I definitely love Moana's Tail on this spot. I didn't end up putting Betcha by Golly on. I looked for a little bit. I love Grand Motion, especially in turf. Just couldn't pull the trigger here because this horse, looking at the running line, really just doesn't like to pass horses. The 1 victory was in the slop and went gate to wire. It was an off-turf race, so really in the slop wasn't beating all that great. It is a major class drop. You're right. It was a big reason why I used the 6. I look at the 6 and I'm like, oh yeah, the 6 has done well on turf. I look at the 7, like that 1 race, 54-1. Nobody thought Grand Motion first time turf was worth betting in that spot. A little concerning for him, especially in a 7-horse race, is last in 54-1. But we'll see what happens in the spot for him. Let's see. I ended up using 4 horses in here. We talked about three of them. Got the 1, got the 4, the 6. We'll talk about the 9, Great Destiny for Christophe Clement. I think this horse is interesting. You've got the first race was trying to be put on the turf. It was a maiden special weight against New York breds. Gets rained off, still ends up winning. Kara's Dreamer was second, ends up winning next out, breaking her maiden. And then Emma and I was in a race, was a common factor in a race earlier in the 6 furlong turf sprint race. So I can't remember who it was that beat her, but it was a horse that we used. I'll go back and look at that. Anyways, now we're hopefully going to finally get this horse on turf. I'm going to feel bad for Clement if it once again gets rained off, but Lezcano is staying aboard. If you scratch off the New York Stallion Series Stakes when on dirt, when it was intended to be on dirt, this is not a dirt horse. Mission Impossible, More Than Ready. That tells me this horse wants turf. And Clement and Lezcano, they only raced 7 times together, 29 win percent with a really nice ROI, in part because this horse won at 12-1.
I like it. I think this is definitely a usable horse. It's the 4th horse on my 50-cent ticket. Didn't make the $2 ticket, but I agree with you. This horse is one of those that looks like it's bred for the turf. They wanted it on the turf. Because it won on the dirt, they decided to jump up and take a shot on the dirt again. You see that a lot. And I think it's going to respond well to the turf course. It'll be interesting to see if it's first time or second time out that we see this horse really take a jump forward. And you got to note, too, that was a state bred race and then a restricted state bred stakes. And now we're into open company. And I realize this is a claiming, but it's still, you kind of have some tougher horses in here than necessarily what he was facing that early in the career.
I got a question here in the chat from Michael Myers. Wants to know, is Freddie Mo Factor better be by the factor? Yeah. And Mike, why did you not use Freddie Mo Factor in this spot?
Show me one race that's good enough to win.
Well, this horse loves to finish second. Look at those last 3 turf races.
You're doing a pick 4 second.
Exactly. Yeah, the place pick all. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, there we go.
Excuse me. No, this horse those last 3 races are really interesting. Drop down to the 18 and then the 20 non-winners of 2 lifetime claiming levels. Gets second by a neck, second by 2 lengths, second by a head. The horse that finished 3rd in that first race beat him in the second race. The horse that was 3rd in that race beat him in the 3rd race. So if Freddie Mo Factor gets second, figure out who finishes 3rd and just blindly bet that horse to win next out. That's clearly what happens here. No, it's the factor on turf. I really don't know who's going to be on the lead at these lower levels. I learned a while ago from you and from Aaron. It's good to have some speed in there. Now, this horse set the pace last time out going 25-2, 50 flat. That is freaking slow. Guess what? We're in New York. They kind of like to go slow on the turf sometimes. So we'll see what happens here. Eric Ansel is no knock on him. He's a downgrade from Tyler Gaff, but it is the factor on turf. Could have potential inside speed advantage here. One of these times, this horse is going to stop finishing second and get the win. I'm going to see if I can get it done here. 9-2, not the best price, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I can't swallow it when you're jumping up in class. And this horse had every reason to win last time out and couldn't do it. Had every reason to win 3 back and couldn't do it. And now you're facing tougher. It's a recipe for disaster for me, especially at 9-2.
Mike says that's the factor. That's the angle. That's the only angle you need to use. I am a little surprised that Mike didn't use, but like Mike said, it's point to a race where they're actually going to, because he's disappointed in you now. Womp womp.
That's the big problem. Well, maybe factor will prove me wrong, and I'll have to reassess my whole life. Other horse I'm going to use here in both the 50-cent and the $3 ticket is the 3-horse Kiss and Run. This is one of those where, look, Falcone's barn is just so hot right now. It's a 4-year-old by Carpe Diem, who's one of those sires. It's a Giant's Causeway on top. You got Lemon Drop Kid on the bottom. Horse should absolutely love the turf. We're getting 3rd start off the layoff, 2nd start at Belmont. I think this is going to be your leader. I think this is the horse that's actually going to go out and get the pace. I mean, the win of 23-3, 47-3 at Belmont. That's a pretty aggressive push. I expect that Irad, and this is a pickup mount for Irad from a Manny Franco mount, is going to push him out there. So I'm going to go with Falcone and Irad, and I don't want to get beat by this horse, who I think is going to be on the lead in this spot.
This is the horse that beat Emin and I. I told you there was a horse that beat Emin and I that I thought I'd use. If there are any scratches, this is going to go in there. I'm with you. I think inside speed potential with Irad there. He and Freddie Mo Factor have very comparable time form early pace numbers, act slightly better for Kiss and Run here. The one concern I have was we're facing winners for the first time. It took this horse 9 starts to break her maiden, but maybe the light bulb went on. Maybe at 4 years old, she just needed a little bit of time to develop, and I'm with you. Falcone is a great trainer, and 5 for 11 to start the meet so far. He didn't land in California. He didn't hit in California like he was hoping. He brought a big field out, or a big barn out there to Santa Anita, trying to take advantage of the ship and win. And I swear I played this horse both times that Falcone had her out there. Didn't get the job done, but could get the job done here, especially if you get another, easy lead like she ended up getting that to break the maiden to hold on pretty well. So don't hate this one either.
Are you using anyone else in this spread race? Or is there anyone else you want to talk about here?
I don't know if I have anybody else that I really want to talk about. I'm going to be really mad if Saved by the Bell beats us just because we both love the show, the 10 horse. But I think the post is going to compromise her here.
Yeah, you could make an argument if you look just at the turf races. You got a 66 and a 71 buyer all the way back in July and August of 2020, but didn't really do any running in those races. So I just this is one I couldn't get to. And as far as if we go to main track only, I do think that the two MTOs are kind of interesting. Both specifically the 14 Almighty Island. If this does end up off the turf, I think that horse is really interesting on the dirt.
They don't. Oh, actually, they did. The last two on there don't even have riders, so we're going to see if they end up getting in here. Didn't use the 8 Carrick either. I'll be honest, I don't look at the MTOs. If there's going to be a turf race, I just completely scratch it off because I don't even want to think about it when it comes to what happens and just pray that I don't ever have to look at it again. But you say that you like the 14 Amity Island. Got a nice 70 buyer claimed away from Chad Brown and Gary Siaka. It's 14% first off the claim, so got that going for her.
Yep. Also likes running on the dirt, which most of these don't.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks so much for joining Mike and I to go through the late pick 4 sequence at Belmont Park on Saturday, May 29th. If you're watching live or the replay, thanks so much for joining us. Give us a like, a thumbs up, a heart, anything you do to help. It would be really appreciated. If you look below, we have our tickets. I will go ahead and give mine out first for 50 cents. First leg, I'm going 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 with 1, 2, 7 with 4, 5 with 1, 4, 6, 9, $60 total for me. And Mike, your 2 tickets equal $60. So we have the same amount here, but if you hit, it's probably going to pay for a little bit more because of that $2. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's hope we get that $2 one home. That's going to make a difference. So let's start with the 50-cent ticket. I'm going to go 4, 5, 9 with 3, 7, 9 with 4, 5 with 3, 6, 7, 9. It'll cost you $36 for 50 cents. And for $2, we're going to go 4, 9 with 4, 5 with 3, 6, 7. That'll cost you $24 for $2.
Got a question here in the chat from Aaron Halchman. Oh, there it goes. Carolina or Nashville tonight? Who you got, Mike?
I'm going to take Carolina. They thoroughly outplayed them in the third period of that last game. Both games in Nashville went to overtime, and Carolina could have easily won either of those games. They had leads in the third period in both of those games. And one thing that happens when you have that closeout game, a team can get tight pretty easily, especially at home if they fall behind. I think if Carolina can get in front of them tonight, Nashville won't be able to catch up.
And you're a good person to ask, too, because you were there scouting a couple of games ago. You were scouting the Carolina Hurricanes to see exactly how they were going to do. I'll go with them as well. The few games that I've seen of them, when they weren't playing the Red Wings, they were playing actually decent teams. They still looked pretty good. So I think that's a good one. You know what? The original best thing I saw was that the Pittsburgh Penguins lost. I hate Sidney Crosby. I know he's a good player. I hate that guy. I've hated him ever since he was a little punk that came into the league. I almost broke my computer when the New York Islanders scored in overtime in Game 5 because it was sitting on my I was going to scare Aaron because he bought me this computer. It was a laptop sitting folded up on the arm of the couch. And as soon as they scored, I went, yeah, like this. And my hand flipped it and it went flying in the air. And luckily it landed on a couple of soft dog toys. But that was a scary moment. But at the same time, just seeing Sidney Crosby upset, it makes my heart feel pretty good.
It's going to be a fun second-round series, too. The Islanders and the Bruins going at it. Toronto's better than Montreal. They're going to get through there pretty easily. They should close it out here in 5. And I would assume they're going to dispatch of Winnipeg pretty quickly, too, whose defense is holier than some Swiss cheese. So I'd expect that Toronto's going to kind of moonwalk into the Final Four now. I'm
with you. I think Toronto was my pick to come out of the Canada division of the playoffs this year. Speaking of Winnipeg, this is another thing that I like. I felt like a bit of a vengeful bitch about this. But so Ken Holland was the general manager of the Detroit Red Wings for over a decade, and he'd worked his way up to the scouting department. The problem is, by the time Ken Holland got to be the general manager, the Red Wings were already been a powerhouse for a long time. He just had to kind of keep the ship steady, and he didn't quite do a good job of that because over the years, he didn't develop the talent, and he couldn't draft the right players. And then the Red Wings are kind of where they're at right now with Steve Yzerman trying to save us. They bring Steve Yzerman in and they say they're going to promote Ken Holland to somewhere else in the organization. And at the press conference announcing Yzerman, you can clearly tell Holland is pissed about the situation. About a week later, leaves to the Edmonton Oilers. You have a guy in Connor McDavid who had one of the greatest seasons in hockey in the last 10, 15 years, over 100 points, playing a very stilted season, and they get swept in the first round by the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, the Winnipeg Jets should have been able to steal one because of Hellebuck, but 4-0. I mean, well, Ken Holland.
The worst was Game 3. They were up 4-0, 4-1 in the third period.
They were up 4-1 in the third period, and they lost in regulation.
and they melted down bad. Like, it was bad. I think they lost in overtime, but they melted down pretty terribly there.
It was overtime, I'm sorry.
And they ended up getting swept. Yeah, look, that team is terrible outside of their top two lines. Their third and fourth line are atrocious. Their defense isn't very good. And they don't have a goalie. So other than that, I mean, they're great. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. And the rumors are starting to swirl too that McDavid wants out of there. So that'll be kind of interesting as well. If he's like, hey, I want out, it's going to be a big time problem. Yeah, and the salary cap in hockey is actually something that's hard. Not only is it a hard cap, but it's also hard to manage a team underneath it. You can't go NBA style with the luxury tax and all that jazz, or Major League Baseball where you just do whatever you want. So it really challenges you if you are paying these players a lot of money and you don't have the revenue growth that you have in other leagues. So, so a lot of leagues can sign these contracts and back end them when they know they're going to have revenue growth, which will raise the cap. In the NHL, you just don't have that same growth. You're not getting 10 and 15% cap hikes every year, which makes it absolutely brutal.
I love this. Apart from that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? I love that. Also, one of my favorite Eminem quotes, even though he didn't make it up himself. No, it's the salary cap issue in Edmonton. It's almost like that's exactly what his big problem was in Detroit. He didn't know how to manage a salary cap with some stars and how to build a team with some cheap talent around him. Connor McDavid, get out of there, please. He was laughing in the game 4 when the same thing happened when they were up in the third period and just literally melted on the ice. McDavid, they showed him on the bench just sitting there laughing like, yeah, here we effing go again. Yep, this is happening, and I'm with you. I think if he gets out of there, listen, if you can't go to Detroit because we don't really have the assets, I wouldn't mind seeing him in St. Louis. It'd be nice for you guys to have another little superstar over there.
Yeah, okay.
Boy, so we only got one pipe dream. He's not even on the show. Listen, thanks so much for joining Mike and I. We're going to get out of here. Make sure you tune in about 35 minutes, or if you're listening to the replay later, and make sure you download Blinkers Off. Episode 500, Big Extravaganza, starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, right here, however you're watching or listening to us. So make sure you check that out. Aaron has a lot of fun little games and guests coming in. It's going to be a party. Don't expect many of us to be sober, so it'll be a good time. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Once again, if there's these racers taking off the turf, you're going to want to see what our updated picks are. I am at Curtis Calvert. He is at SumObama18, number 1, number 8. Corporate Overlords at Racing_Dudes. Go to racingnews.com. We have previews for every single big stakes race happening this weekend. And I say big stakes race because there's a total of 14 horses and 3 stakes races at Santa Anita. Not counting those, so we're not doing the previews. Everything else, you can go check it out over at racingnews.com. Until next time, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck this weekend.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.